AHRA funny cars burn the asphalt at better than 250 miles per hour. These colorful Thundermakers develop over 2,500 horsepower, and you're going to see them coming up next on the Superchargers. I'm Jan Gabriel, and today you're going to see fast-action funny cars from US 30 drag strip just outside of Chicago, Illinois. It's one of the oldest and one of the most beautiful drag strips in the nation. The fast qualifier here is Frank Hawley. Frank is a Canadian, and he's driving a car called the Chi-Town Hustler. How does Canada get hooked up with Chicago?
Oh, gosh, a few years ago they were looking for a driver, and I sent in an application, and they said, come on down, drive the car.
All right, let's talk about this event. It's going to be a fast one. You're qualified at 586. That's pretty quick.
Yeah, that's the #1 qualifier. We did that on Friday night, and since then, Mike Dunn's run a 5.88 second run, so the track's in excellent condition, and I'm looking for some fast times today.
Some of the other competitors here include John Force and Roland Leong's Hawaiian, with Mike Dunn doing the driving. Both those cars got in a little trouble here during qualifying.
Yeah, on Friday night, Mike Dunn lost a rear wheel. It was a strange mechanical failure. He slid down and bumped in the guardrail, but he fixed the car very well, and like I said, they come back and run a 5.88 second run last night. John Force last night, he'd run a 5.9 second run on Friday. He come back and spun the tires, got off in the dirt last night, and I think that he's going to be real tough today.
Well, the whole field is going to be tough. They've all run very close ETs, which is not uncommon at a national championship event.
No, when you have the track prepared as well as it is today, and the cars are racing at 250 miles per hour, the field's qualified within 0.2 of a second. It's going to be extremely close competition.
All right, I'm going up to the tower to bring you the action. Right now, let's go over to Linda Marshall.
Thank you, Jan. This is Mike Dunn, driver of Roland Leong's Hawaiian. Mike, I see some damage to the car here. It happened Friday night. What's the problem here at US 30? The track?
No, the track's all right. The track's actually pretty good. We had a problem. The car left real good, and the right rear wheel fell off. And it's kind of hard to drive on 3 wheels. It just got into the guardrail a little bit, hurt the body. We fixed her up and came back yesterday and qualified real well.
Any chassis or engine damage?
No, just other than the wheel coming off, there was no chassis damage. We checked everything over real well, and it was just mainly the body. It just kind of bumped into the guardrail. It kind of slid into it, so it didn't do a whole lot of damage.
Okay, your second fastest qualifier here. What's it going to take to beat this field?
Well, I think, consistency mainly. You're going to have to run probably consistent, high 580s, 590s, and you'll be right there. You got the Chi-Town Hustler. They'll run 580s every run, so it'll be tough.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike Dunn, and good luck. Okay. Back to Jan up in the tower now.
All indications are that we're in for a tremendously exciting drag racing funny car showdown here this afternoon from one of the most historic drag racing strips in the entire country, US 30. Our vantage point in the tower will provide us with a good look today at the runs that we expect to be in excess of 250 miles per hour. And joining me here is Pat Minnick, former driver of the Chi-Town Hustler, one of the really strong cars here today. Pat retired from the car back in 1971. How you doing today?
Doing just fine, Jan.
Your car's looking pretty good. Tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a 1984 Dodge Daytona with a Dodge Hemi engine.
And Frank Hawley doing the driving. How long has Frank been with you?
Frank's been with us for about 5 years now.
All right, we have an 8-car showdown. We're in the quarterfinals. Here's the car that will be taking on Frank Hawley. This is Gary Southern and Captain Crazy. We don't know too much about him.
Yeah, Gary's a California boy. He's been around for a while. He's relatively new to the Fuel Funny cars, but he'll do okay.
All right, let's take a look at the 8-car national pairings right now. We told you about Frank Hawley. He's fast qualifier with a 586. Gary Southern will take him on as the slowest qualifier here in the field. Then there's John Force. Force, of course, always a force to be reckoned with, and Bob Pickett. Let's take a look at the second half now. Doc Holliday, he'll be in a car called Telstar. Don't know too much about the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor's been around a while. He started running funny cars in about 1971.
All right, he'll be taking on Tom Hoover. Hoover is in a car called Showtime. He's out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Jim White from Tulsa, Oklahoma takes on Mike Dunn. Dunn always runs strong in the Roland Leong Hawaiian car. Again, however, your fast qualifier with a 586 is Frank Hawley. We asked Frank earlier what it's going to take to win here.
Extremely consistent performances. I think if your car runs about 5.9 seconds and does it 3 or 4 times a day, you're going to be the champion.
Frank Hawley, the Chi-Town Hustler. Frank says consistency is the name of the game. You agree with him, Pat Minnick?
That's always been our game plan, and I certainly agree with it.
All right, here's Gary Southern. We asked him if he's ready for the day.
I hope so. The only thing we've been having trouble with is the clutch. We got plenty of horsepower, but I think if we can get the clutch dialed in, I think we can take care of the rest.
Gary Southern now fired up in lane number 1. He's ready to go. Frank Hawley in lane number 2. And they're away. Pat Minnick looking pretty good as they come off the line. It's Frank Hawley at the end of the 1320. And Hawley puts it down with a 584 ET, 240.64 miles per hour. Nice clean run, Pat.
Yeah, it was a good straight run for my car. It looks like Gary got a little bit out of the groove there and had to shut it off.
All right. Chi-Town Hustler now coasting down in the shut-off area. Fans all excited about this car. Right now, let's go to Linda Marshall.
Frank, you improved your ET over your qualifying round.
Yeah, we made a few changes on the car. We softened the clutch up a little bit, which would stop the wheel spin. And we went back to the right lane, which is what we qualified in. We were real happy with that. I think we can expect a performance just as good as that in the next round, too.
Did you put more in the motor?
No, we're pretty conservative about that, and the engine's running just about as fast as we want it to run right now.
Okay, back to you in the tower, Jan.
Linda Marshall just asked your driver if he was going to step up the engine. He said no, but Pat Minnick, if he were going to do that, what would you do to the car?
There's several things we could do, but what we normally do is we'll either put a few more degrees lead in the magneto, or maybe change the blower drive percentage up a notch or two, or even put a % or two more nitro in it.
All right, getting ready to tee up right now is John Force out of Fullerton, California, and Bob Pickett in an 84 Corvette. Pickett comes to this particular event as the slowest qualifier. We had an opportunity to ask him about this slow time a little earlier.
Okay, we qualified on the bubble with the 626. We're about 3/10 behind, 3/10 at least behind the leader. So we've already added more nitro, put in a fresh clutch, boosted up the mag and boosted up the blower, and we're hoping that's what it's going to take to do it, and we're going to go for it.
Well, Bob Pickett sort of on a hope and a prayer here. John Force looking good. Although Force didn't look so good last night, during a qualifying run, he got off the racetrack, got himself into trouble, but he's ready today.
Yeah, the car is definitely ready to run. We had run 592 on an early session, 250 yesterday afternoon, and the track was excellent last night on the start line, but I think it was about 10:30 at night. It was getting a little cold down track, and we just got out there 400 or 500 feet, and it got on a little bit of a wet surface. She made a right turn, got off in the grass for 300 or 400 feet, but never made a connection with the guardrail, so we did a little glass work this morning. She's ready to run.
John Force certainly pumped up and ready to go. He's in lane number 1, Bob Pickett in lane number 2. Pat Minnick, what's going through their minds right now?
It's all business now. They're concentrating on the tree and making sure no one red lights.
All right, Force gets off nicely. Whoa, a little out of shape, but he clicks the clocks and dials it in with a 597 and a speed of 251.04 miles per hour.
John got a little out of shape on that run. If he wouldn't have got out of shape, he'd have gone a little quicker.
Still not all bad, though. 594 puts him in the semi, and let's go down to the shutoff area right now. Here's Linda.
John, your 594 was consistent with your qualifying time. What are you going to do? Build more power in it or fool with the clutch?
No, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to watch the racetrack and see if it's coming or going. And if it looks good, we'll build more power. And if not, we'll have to out-trick it with the clutch. That's right.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Back to the top of the line right now. Here's Telstar. This is the car of Doc Holliday out of St. Paul, Minnesota. But he's sitting here all by himself, Pat.
Yeah, Jan, Tom Hoover hasn't shown on the starting line. They'll give him a certain allotted amount of time, and if he can't make it, they'll send him on a single.
Yeah, evidently some problems for Tom Hoover out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. You saw the squad car. He's always sitting there down at the end of the line. We talked to Doc Holliday earlier. He told us a little bit about his car.
Here today. Well, we're 7th fast qualifier. We ran a 610, which is going to do fairly well here, but I think we're going to have to run a little bit better. And we're going to have to be very consistent. The cars that are running here this weekend are running very consistent, and it's going to be a really great race.
Well, Doc Holliday still on the line all by himself as he takes off now. He's going to do a single here. Tom Hoover doesn't show. All right, here's the time now, a 6:53, 227.56 miles per hour. So he's going to have to work on that a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like he had the setup a little bit off for that particular run, either too much power or maybe his tires went away or something.
Another one of our helicopter shots here this afternoon. All right, we're going to go back to the top of the line. Lane number 1 now. Doing his burnout is Jim White. He's out of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, Jan. Jim started driving in about 1970. You might remember him from a tour he did in Australia, driving the LA Hooker.
Mike Dunn will be in lane number 2. He's out of Los Angeles, California. Jim White qualified with an ET of 606. I asked him if he was going to make any changes in the car to see if he could step it up just a little bit.
We qualified number 6 yesterday with a 606 at just 202.
we had some problems with the motor, and I had to shut it off early. We changed motors this morning. We've got in a 590 motor, and I think that we're caught up.
Here's 26-year-old Mike Dunn now.
Yeah, Mike Dunn's had some bad luck the last couple of years. He's had a few bad crashes, but fortunately he's okay, and we look for him to do well here.
He had some problems in qualifying as well.
Yeah, we did have a little problems Friday. The right rear wheel fell off, and car kind of slid in the guardrail, did a little bit of damage to the fiberglass. We got her fixed up, came back, qualified second with a 588, and I think if we can run that consistently for 3 runs a day, I think we can win it.
On the line, ready to tee off, 2 heavy Chargers. What's it cost for a run these days?
Well, in our particular car, it costs anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a run.
Just for 1 run. And here's Mike Dunn now, getting his run done. And here's his elapsed time, 5.92, speed 248.27 miles per hour. So it'll be Mike Dunn out of Los Angeles, California, taking on John Force in the semis. Force out of Fullerton, California. Should be a dandy. One of those two will head for the finals. Right now, let's go down to the shutoff area and Mike Dunn.
Mike, you've been having a few problems. You broke up the car a little bit Friday night, but this looked like a good, clean run. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, the car's running real well. It shook a little bit top of low gear, but it still ran pretty decent. We're real happy with it.
What's it going to take for the semifinals?
Well, Force ran 92. I don't know what we ran that run, so hopefully we got lane choice. That'll probably be pretty close. We're going to have to run about a high 80 at least to get Force, because he'll run good again.
We'll be right back with more on the Supercharger. I'm Jan Gabriel. Joining me in the tower this afternoon is Pat Minnick, and he's the owner of that car you see right there as we move into the semifinals between Frank Hawley and Doc Holliday. Frank Hawley will be in lane number 2. Holliday will be starting in lane number 1. Pat Minnick, quick question about tires. How many runs do you get out of a set of tires?
We go anywhere from 3 to 8 runs out of a set of tires. We watch them pretty close. If looks like one of them are going away or the car makes any kind of a peculiar move, we'll just change it.
I might add that the tires are rather expensive. A set of rear tires for one of these funny cars runs you about $500. Speaking of cost, you know, Pat Minnick, you said earlier that it's around $1,500 to $2,000 to make 1 run. A pass like that does get expensive. What about the fuel itself now? How many gallons and what's nitro cost these days?
Jan, as you know, we use nitromethane for fuel, and we use about, from the time we start the car up till the time we shut it off, about 10 gallons of fuel. And that equates to about $350 just in fuel alone.
Pretty expensive part of the run then, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. I wish we could find some way to knock that down.
Both cars now ready to tee off. Doc Holliday looking for his first national win. Could pull it off, but he's got to beat tough Frank Hawley. Hawley, fast qualifier here. Let's see what happens now. Side by side, and they're away. Hawley looking good now as Doc Holliday burns the tires off. Frank Hawley clicks the clocks, dials in a 581 with a speed of 235.29 miles per hour. So Frank Hawley will move into the finals.
As you know, Jan, that run was almost identical to our last one. Consistency is the key to our success.
Well, we're going to see how successful you're going to be. Right now, let's go down and see what Frank Hawley has to say about it.
Frank, a little earlier you said consistency is the name of the game here. You've been consistent all weekend. You're into the finals now. It's either going to be Dunn or Force. Do you have a preference?
Oh, gosh, I'd like to run all by myself and win the race, but they're both great racers. Mike Dunn and John Force, they've beaten us, and we've beaten them over the last couple years, and I think it's going to be one heck of a drag race in the final.
Back at the top of the racetrack now, it's John Force finding himself now in lane number 2, the right-hand side. Mike Dunn will be on the near side in lane number 1, or the left-hand side. So here's an opportunity for these two drivers now to test the track, if you will. They're in opposite lanes from where they were when they ran the quarterfinal.
You know, that's not bad. It's not a bad idea to get a shot at both lanes. Both of these lanes seem to be pretty good, but one's a little different than the other, and it pays to know the lane you're going to have to be in the next round.
Well, lane choice hasn't really been an issue with the drivers yet, but you kind of favor that lane number 2, the right lane.
Yeah, we sure do. We made a pass in the left lane last night, and it wasn't exactly to our liking. And we've been doing pretty good in the right lane, and I think I'd like to stick to it.
All right, John Force now in lane number 2, Mike Dunn in lane number 1. Winner here moves on to face Frank Hawley in the finals just a little bit later on. And it's Mike Dunn who gets away cleanly. John Force having some problems now. Seemed to have some problems when he came off the launch pad. Mike Dunn dials in a 587 7 and a top speed of 251.74 miles per hour. Pat Minnick, what happened to John Force back there?
Looks like he didn't have his clutch set up quite right. When he made the transition from the concrete launch pad to the asphalt track, it just struck the tires.
All right, so it'll be Mike Dunn against Frank Hawley. Let's go down to the shutoff area. Here's Mike Dunn.
Mike, you've been having some problems, but it looks like you've ironed them out. That was a good, clean pass. But now you're up against the world champion Chi-Town Hustler. What's it going to take to step up?
Well, they're definitely running good. They ran 81 that run the right lane. I like the left lane a little bit better. It's working better for our car. I'm sure they'll take the right lane because they're running real well over there. And we're going to have to step up just a little bit. I think we're going to have to get another half-tenth out of her to beat them.
What are you going to have to do to the motor?
We're going to have to hop her up a little bit. We'll step on her a little bit, see if we can get another half-tenth out of it, and hope they fall off a little bit. It'll be a good race.
Okay, good luck. Back to you, Jan.
All right, back to the top of the hill. We've got a real special treat for you right now as we wait for Frank Hawley and Mike Dunn to work on their cars, give them a little chance to get them back out here for the finals. We've got some thunderstorms moving in over the area, so we're going to have to hustle along here, Pat Minnick. What do we got on the line here?
Yeah, we have a jet exhibition truck. These things really put on a show.
This is Les Shockley. The truck is called Shockwave. There are 3 jet engines on the back. Right now, though, let's go to Frank Hawley's pit and find out what shape the car is in.
Jan, in answer to your question, here in the pit with Frank Hawley, the Chi-Town Hustler's in good shape. They've replaced all the pistons, but that's just routine, according to Hawley. He calls it preventive maintenance. And you can bet Frank Hawley will be ready to take on Mike Dunn in the finals.
All is well in the Hawley pit. Well, let's see what Les Shockley says about this big jet truck.
Each one of these engines will make 6,000 pounds of thrust. That's a static thrust reading standing still for a total of 18,000 pounds of thrust. This truck would actually, if you stood it on its back and lit these engines, could out-accelerate the space shuttle or any other rocket they've sent into space.
Les Shockley seems to think that this vehicle's going to fly for him here.
Yeah, well, those engines definitely have some airtime on them.
Right now, let's go back to Linda Marshall.
Here with Mike Dunn's car, the scenario is the same as in Frank Hawley's pit. No major problems with the car, just routine maintenance. Simply taking everything apart, and now they're putting it back together again. But as you mentioned, Jan, one thing is changing rapidly, and that's the weather. We're seeing some sprinkles now. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Back to you.
Well, some of that late rain has found its way onto the racetrack here. Les Shockley, I think, is going to blow most of it away. Listen to the sounds of this thing as he takes off now. Shockley on a rocket ride in a semi-truck with 3 jet engines. Here he is crossing the finish line, and the ET 8.15, the speed 201.56. Not bad for a big vehicle weighing 7,000 pounds.
That was awesome. You could even feel the heat up here in the tower.
Sure could. I tell you, we can use some of that heat maybe to blow away some of those old rain clouds. We're using a helicopter now down on the racetrack itself where a few sprinkles have fallen. Back on the line, all is in readiness now. The finals coming up. Frank Hawley, the Chi-Town Hustler, takes on Mike Dunn in the Hawaiian. Well, let's see. I would imagine that Frank Hawley's got it dialed in the way he wants to. Mike Dunn perhaps looking for a little more power than what he had before. The rest is up to the drivers.
Yeah, you know, Frank is a good enough driver where he makes it almost easy for us guys to dial the car in. Frank is the variable in the car. He's the one that works the throttle and the controls. And he works them to whatever the conditions want.
Mike Dunn on the inside. This is the lane that he likes. Frank Hawley is the lane that he likes. So we could see a pretty exciting drag race coming up here.
Yeah, they're pretty evenly matched. They're both Dodges. I think you're going to see an excellent race.
Both cars now in that all-important staging area, ready to go with the finals. Frank Hawley and Mike Dunn. Both of them now looking at the instrumentation, lining up with the lights, getting themselves set and ready. Hawley, however, just one instrument, and that, of course, is the oil pressure gauge.
Yeah, at this time, that's the only thing we figure is necessary on our car. The cars, though, are getting more and more sophisticated. Some of the cars have even carried onboard computers.
Big old rain clouds still hanging over our head here, just waiting to let go. But so are these 2,500 horsepower funny cars on the line. Frank Hawley on your left, Mike Dunn on the right. Let's watch them now. They are ready to go in pre-stage. Now staging. Watch them carefully. This is for the AHRA National Championship. It's Mike Dunn with a slight hole shot. Dunn leads it to the midway point. Frank Hawley then takes over on the top end, and it's going to be Frank Hawley with a blistering 585, 250 miles per hour. And we'll be right back with more on the Superchargers. I want to thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, Jen.
Now here's Linda Marshall.
Frank, you started the day fast qualifier. You've been confident throughout. You've run really well, but it was a close race. You pulled it off. Congratulations. And can you share your thoughts with us right now?
Oh, it's just fantastic to win. I mean, that's why we in the Team Strange group have so many great cars out here. It's because we come to win these races. And Mike Dunn, driving for Roland Leon, outstanding competition. I saw his car out the corner of my eye most of the way down the track. And then Austin's Coils motor pulled us around at the finish line.
Well, I certainly want to add my congratulations to Frank Hawley and that great team of the Chi-Town.
The Superchargers, National Championship and unique motorsports events, brought to you by English Leather. Wear English Leather or wear nothing at all. By your neighborhood True Value hardware stores. We've got what it takes. And by Gold Eagle, makers of fine automotive products.
We have for you today Top Fuel Dragsters, and the fourth fastest qualifier, the legend himself, Big Daddy Don Garlitz. What's this fourth fast qualifier stuff? You're usually up there on top.
Well, last night I made a real good run, and it should have been the #1 qualifier, but the wheels went into a power stand about 300 feet out, and I had to completely lift and get back on it. I still run 566, so I think we were going to make a good low 550. But this round today, I'll have lane choice in this first run, and it'll be real important. I hope to get the low ET back.
Any favorites as far as lanes developing here?
Well, I like the left lane. That's where it really seemed to get a good bite, so I'm going to favor that left lane this morning.
We had some cars getting out of shape during qualifying last night.
Well, you know what happens. The times were so good, and the track has just been tremendous. And a lot of the fellas, they overpower the cars in. They do a lot of things they shouldn't do, you know, trying to get records and better qualifying positions, and they actually get a little in over their head, and that's what you saw last night.
Is there any chance we'll see some records set here today?
Yes, I'm sure. Well, you know, my car and Jerry Ruth are both got backups now for the top speed record, which is currently held by Shirley Muldowney. I think that'll be eclipsed today.
So a pretty classy field here today.
Yeah, they've, you know, they've really done a lot of work here at US 30 drag strip. It's one of the premier drag strips in the nation now, and it's going to be one of the things of the future to come to. This is a big race.
I want to wish you good luck today.
Thank you very much.
Right now, let's go to Linda Marshall.
This is Chris, the Golden Greek Karamessinas. Chris, you're one of the real veterans of this sport. How long have you been doing it?
About 30 years now, and I started out in a street roadster and ended up in a top fuel dragster, running around the country, enjoying myself, having a great time.
Well, experience certainly has served you well. You're a top qualifier going into today's quarterfinals. What do you think it's going to take to beat this field?
Well, I think if we just keep running like we are, we'll do good, and I'm glad we're doing good at home in Chicago, and I think we should be able to win this thing.
Okay, good luck to you. Now back up to Jan in the tower.
It's one of those days of great anticipation as some of the best top fuel dragsters in the country have gathered here to compete in an AHRA National Championship. And we're located about 40 miles south of Chicago at beautiful US 30 drag strip. I'm Jan Gabriel. Along with me is George Tolan. And George comes to us a little dejected today. He was the first alternate here.
Yes, I'm a little disappointed. Nothing personal, Jan, but I'd much rather be down there than up here. But I hope to give you some good insight into the race today.
Well, it's an extremely fast field here today. We're down to the 8-car quarterfinals.
Yes, the #1 qualifier, Chris Karamessinas, that's the fastest he's ever run. And like Don said earlier, we're looking for records here today.
All right, well, we'll find out. This is Del Wilch right now out of Kansas City, Kansas. Let's take a look at our pairings. It's Garlitz, Don Garlitz, without a doubt the legend.
Yes, he was off the pace a little bit this year, but it looks like he's caught on today.
And he'll take on Welch. In the second round here, it'll be Frank Bradley. Bradley, always a tough competitor.
Bradley usually overpowers the track, but it doesn't look like it here.
He'll take on Jack Ostrander. He's from Detroit, Michigan. Let's take a look at the second half of this illustrious field now. Here's Jerry Ruth. He's been on the Superchargers before.
Jerry blew the blower off the car at this race last year. Sure hope it doesn't happen this year.
All right, Gene Snow. He's out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Gene's the #1 qualifier, or not the #1 qualifier. He's the points leader in AHRA this year.
And Chris, the Golden Greek Karamessinas.
He's the #1 qualifier.
Indeed he is. Dick LaHaye, he had a problem here last night.
Yeah, he went upside down. He and his daughter worked all night to get that car repaired.
And here's Don Garlitz on the line. He has chosen lane number 2. He said earlier he wanted lane number 1.
Yeah, well, what happened was about 15 minutes ago, the left lane got oiled down a little bit, so it looks like the right lane may be better.
Garlitz is most concerned about a strong ET.
This round today, I'll have lane choice in this first run, and that'll be real important. I hope to get the low ET back.
Yes, Garlitz is taking on relative newcomer Dale Welch.
Well, Dale said that he was going to have his work cut out for him.
Well, at this point in time, we're number 8, or we're actually on the bubble, the slowest car and the fastest 8 that gets to race today. Number 8 qualifier gets to run the number 4 qualifier, and at this particular race, that happens to be Don Garlitz. So we've got our work cut out for us this afternoon, first round. But I think we can do it. We found a few tricks, found a few things we had wrong last night, and think we've got a little more ET and a little more miles per hour in the car than we had on our qualifying run.
Dale Wilkes sounds like he's saying, I need a bigger horseshoe in my pocket.
He sure does. Whenever you race Don Garlitz, you need to do something special. And this is going to be an especially tough race because Garlitz has got picked up a couple tenths in the last few weeks.
All right, on the line, ready to go. The tree comes down, and they're away. Garlitz looks good.
He's pulling away at mid-track. He surely got him.
All right, Don Garlitz crosses the line, dials in a 568 with a speed of 251.74.
Yes, did you see there was a little bit of smoke in the run and then a lot at the end? That means there was some internal engine damage. There's going to be a lot of maintenance for Don in between rounds.
All right, here's your next man on the line now. This is Frank Bradley, and Bradley will take on Jack Ostrander. Right now, let's go down to Linda Marshall.
Don, a 569, good run.
Yeah, well, it's a first pair on the track, and we really have to be careful about how hard we leave. So it's better to have a 69 and not smoke the tires and try to go for low ET.
But you did have a little smoking across the line. Looks like it might need new pistons?
It's a possibility. We're running these engines pretty hard.
This is Jack Ostrander now. He owns his own car.
He's a relative newcomer that's been doing it about 3 years, and this is a new chassis for him this year.
He told us about the car earlier.
Well, the car's running pretty decent, and I think it'll probably take a 560 or 570 to go win the first round anyway.
Here's Frank Bradley now out of Napa, California. They make some fine wine up there, George.
Sure do.
All right, he set a number of speed, ET, and track records in AHRA competition, has won 17 national events in the course of his career. Right now, he's concerned about Chris Karamessinas.
The Greek was #1 qualifier, and there's only a few thousandths apart between these ETs. It's going to be a very close field. There's a couple other cars that can run 550s also, so it's going to be plenty tight. It's just, if we can keep it from smoking the tires, we can keep running 550s.
Frank Bradley. Bradley's been hot these last couple of years. Here he is on the line now. The countdown, and they're underway.
Good, clean run, no smoke. When there's no smoke out of Frank's car, it's a good run.
Good run indeed. Here's the ET now, 558 with a speed of 252.39 miles per hour.
Hard to make it look that easy, but he sure does.
Here they are, kind of coasting down. Big, puffy parachutes coming out. Saved a life or two, hasn't it?
Sure has. Those things are remarkable. They'll slow you down from 200 to about 80 miles an hour in about 2 seconds.
So will this guy. What's his story out there?
Well, he gives you a ticket if you go over 300 miles an hour.
I knew there was a reason he was parked down there. Well, parked way down at the shutoff area is Frank Bradley, and with him is Linda Marshall.
Frank, do you feel you had Ostrander covered all the time?
Well, it was ET-ing good earlier in the day, or yesterday when we qualified, and it should have been fine.
Okay, did you feel you had a really clean run?
I think it was.
Strong engine?
Strong engine.
What's it going to take for the semifinals?
Probably, I would say a 60, 560.
Okay, hope you do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bradley seems to think he can do it with a 560. He's going to have a lower ET than that.
No doubt about it, especially against competition like Jerry Ruth, where every race he enters, he can win.
All right, and also Gene Snow, happy to be second fast qualifier.
Well, we qualified #2. We're real pleased with that. We ran a 557. I think we were 3,000 slower than the very quickest time. That was my quickest time ever, and the car was hurt just a tiny bit. I think it's going to be able to run quicker and feel real good about today.
You're looking at a 17-inch wide tire. It'll shrink down to about 10 inches once they get up on it at the start. Jerry Ruth is concerned about tires today.
Well, we qualified #6. There's about 3 or 4 cars at the 550s, and we're in a 572. We've been coming loose out there about 100 feet out, smoke of the tires, I should say, losing traction, and that's been slowing us down. Although we have top speed at 254, which shows we have the power, we're having a little trouble with the traction, which is always a little elusive. So we have a bigger tire on here and a bigger, wider wheel. I assume it will get a better bite. We made a short pass last night, and it seemed to hold much better. So today I think we're ready.
Jerry Ruth in lane number 1. He can't afford to do anything but look for consistency.
Yeah, he's got to correct that problem. These guys are running way too fast. Oh, there's the smoke. He smoked the tires again.
He sure did. And Gene Snow looks like he shut down a little bit early. ET 578 with a speed of 203.16 miles per hour.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me that Gene got out of it a little bit early so he could save the motor for the next run.
Well, you can bet that Gene Snow is a happy man. And right now, let's go out to the shutoff area and Linda Marshall.
Looks like Ruth hazed the tires hard. Your run looked relatively smooth, though a little bumpy at the end.
Well, I had no idea what happened to him, but I didn't see him, so we just stayed in it right to the end.
You ran a higher ET than your qualifying round. Looks like there's more left in the car.
Yeah, trying to save it for next round.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Now back to the tower.
Here's the fast qualifier now, Chris Karamasinas.
Yes, this year he's got an entirely new chassis and an entirely new engine combination. He's really competitive.
All right, Chris, the Golden Great Karamasinas. We asked him earlier if we were going to see some more low ETs.
I think that the way the condition of the track, it's really good, and I think you will see a good race, and there should be some good times out there.
Karamasinas in front of a hometown crowd. They're really pumped up for him to win here today. Here's Dick LaHaye now doing his burnout.
He rolled the car last night. He and Kim worked all night to repair it.
We asked him earlier about the repair work.
The car looks pretty sound, and we've got the frame all back together now and another front end on it. And they're finishing up the rear spoiler right now. And we're looking forward to run good today.
The engine's pulsating on the line now as they wait to move down Thunder Alley. Here they are. Karamasinas gets away nicely. He's got it at the midway point and through the traps. Chris Karamasinas with a 565 and a speed of 249.30 miles per hour.
That looks like a good, clean run for Chris, and that's good because he's going to be competitive for the next round.
He's off a little bit from his qualifying ET.
That's not too meaningful. He's still within a tenth of the competitors.
All right, we're going to go out now to the shutoff area. Chris Karamasinas with Linda Marshall. Linda?
Chris, in this quarterfinal round, Bradley seems to have the ET advantage. What's it going to take in the semifinals for you?
Well, last night we broke some, so that was our first run on a different motor, so we need to get tuned up, and that was our tune-up run. So we hope to do a pretty good job for the next run.
4 cars in the semifinals. Karamasinas, Bradley, Garlitz, and Snow.
They'll go through engine maintenance now, take it apart, look at the pistons, then they'll go to the clutch and adjust it for track conditions, and then back up to the line.
Speaking about conditions, we've got weather conditions moving in around the parameters of the drag strip. Might rain. Right now, let's go to Linda Marshall.
Now, this may look like an ordinary semi you'd see rolling down the highway, but don't be fooled. On the back of it are 3 jet engines, 3 of them. And today we're going to see her make her maiden voyage here on the Superchargers. Is it possible that this truck will go 300 miles an hour on the quarter mile? We'll find out later on.
And we got a supercharged semifinal coming up for you. Top Fuel Dragsters. I'm Jan Gabriel along with George Tolan, and you're looking at Don Garlitz.
Yes, this is an excellent year for Don. Don started off a little bit slow, but now he's fine. He's probably going faster than he has in his entire life.
Gene Snow. Snow will take on Garlitz in this semifinal. He's out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Gene's #1 in the points right now in AHRA, and he had a little trouble Saturday night. He said he damaged the engine, and then on his first pass this morning, he shut it off early, so he may be a little bit leery about how well his engine's running.
And Garlitz, of course, he is the legend, the first man to break the 190-mile-per-hour mark. He was the first one over 240, over 250. He has set a lot of records.
Don's been instrumental in the entire evolution of drag racing, and as a result of that, he's opened up a museum down in Florida.
All right, we're about ready to go here. Big Daddy Don Garlitz. Good close-up now as they move to the line. Let's watch him carefully. This is important now. Winner goes to the finals.
Looks like Don's engine's running a little bit rich. You can see the smoke coming out of the left bank of the motor. That's raw fuel pumping out of there.
Both drivers hit the go button and jettison off the line, but it's Don Garlitz all the way down.
Yeah, and you could see Snow started to smoke the motor about halfway down, and it just ate him up.
Garland certainly running consistent with a 557 ET and a speed of 247.93 miles per hour. Right now, here's Linda Marshall.
Don, you've gone into the finals. Bradley and Karamasinas are up next. Which one would you rather race in the finals?
Well, I'd rather race the Greek. You know, he's from Chicago, and our racing goes clear back to 1958, and I think it would be a real nostalgia trip, and, of course, the fans would just love it.
You lowered your ET. What are you going to have to do to step up the motor now?
Well, I just hope that it's all nice, and I'll just try to just delicately tune it because I don't want to smoke the tires.
And it looked like you didn't hurt the motor any.
No, it looked very nice. It's looking good.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to you in the tower, Jan.
Two big thunder makers on the line. Chris, the Golden Greek Karamessinas, his lowest ET of the meet, a 5.570. Now, here is Frank Bradley. Bradley's lowest ET of the meet, 5.575. They're the two quickest cars at this time. There is only 5,000ths of a second separating the two. Now, let's hope we get this whole meet in. We've got some rain on the way. As you can see, some big old clouds coming in over the racetrack.
Jan, you mentioned that both these cars are within 5 1,000ths of a second, running virtually identical times. Don't forget, Garlitz ran a 5:57 too, so any one of these cars could win this race.
Well, that's right. Three good, strong cars. That's what makes it interesting. On the line now. Karamessinas got off real quick, and there's the reason why. He red-lighted. So Frank Bradley will win this one easily.
And that 5:53 is an incredible number for Frank.
That's probably a track record here at US 30 Drag Strip, probably an AHRA record as well. Frank Bradley, he's really fired up to get into these finals here. Let's go down to the shutoff area right now in Linda Marshall.
Frank, you've had good speed, you've been real consistent, and you beat Garlitz 2 years ago at this same track. What's it going to take to win this time?
Well, I don't know. I think maybe we run another 50, 57, 58, 53. It's running good.
Which lane are you going to choose next time?
Left lane again.
Why is that?
I've been running that all day long. Been running 50s in it all day long. I'm going to stay with the 50s.
Good luck to you. Back to you in the tower.
If there's any edge that anybody has, it's the fact that Bradley's got the left lane in the final.
Could be, but both these guys are real veterans, and nobody can tell who's going to win this race.
All right, Les Shockley's out on the line right now, trying to hold off the rain clouds for us. We don't want to get rained out in our final. This is a Peterbilt truck with 3 jet engines. Right now, we're going back to Linda Marshall. Linda?
Jan, here in Don Garlitz's pit, they pulled out all the pistons and found one that was burned, so they're replacing it. Other than that, routine maintenance. And you can bet Big Daddy will be ready to take on Frank Bradley.
Once again, here's Les Shockley now. Shockley can probably explain this better than we can. Here he is, Les Shockley.
Each one of these engines will make 6,000 pounds of thrust. That's a static thrust reading standing still for a total of 18,000 pounds of thrust. This truck would actually, if you stood it on its back and lit these engines, could out-accelerate the space shuttle or any other rocket they've sent into space.
Les Shockley with some big numbers there for us. Here's another one. These 3 engines developed 36,000 horsepower.
Boy, I sure wouldn't mind putting some of that horsepower in my top fuel car.
Oh, you'd win them all. You'd beat everybody with that kind of horsepower, huh?
Sure would.
Right now, let's go back to the pit area. Linda Marshall now in the Frank Bradley pit.
In answer to your question, Jan, here in the pit with Frank Bradley, they're repairing the fuel tank. It cracked during the last run. Other than that, there's no damage to the engine. Pistons are fine. They're simply checking the clearances on the valves, which is standard procedure, and they feel they can win it just the way it's set up.
Well, according to Linda Marshall, Bradley's ready, Garlitz is ready, everybody's ready. And I'll tell you one thing, they better hurry along because we've got rain on the way. Right now, Les Shockley, a Peterbilt, weighs 7,000 pounds. How's he going to get it down the strip, George?
Quickly, no doubt about it. Look at this thing. You can't believe the noise.
Loud is right, and here he is now as his red and orange screaming machine heads down the 1320, the quarter mile. And here's Les Shockley now as he hits the traps, 8.15 and a speed of 201.56 miles an hour. Now, George Tolan, I'm going to tell you something. For weighing 7,000 pounds, that's not bad.
That's an incredible time for a Peterbilt tractor. I can't believe it.
Well, the officials are certainly going to move things along very quickly now. We do have rain in the area, and the clouds are plopped right down on top of this racetrack, so we'll see if we get this one off. This is the finals. Don Garlitz in lane number 2, and here's Frank Bradley in lane number 1. Being in lane number 1 will be Bradley's only advantage.
Well, in addition to that, Frank has run a 5:53, which is 3 or 4 hundredths quicker than what Garlitz has run, so he's also been performing better during the day.
And, of course, we don't know what happened during this last setup back in the pit area. They might have gone any number of directions. Bradley might have put in too much power. Garlitz might have not put in enough. You never know.
You can see the way the engines are idling. Garlitz's is a little more erratic, and Bradley seems to be more calm. So Garlitz may have the thing really hopped up for this race to try to pick up that 2 or 3 thousandths difference.
So Garlitz electing to run the engine a little on the lean side. Here's Bradley moving up. He's staged. Garlitz now moves into position. Let's watch the two of them as they're off the line virtually together, but it's Bradley now in the long haul who pulls it off, and Frank Bradley wins it with an ET of 560 and a speed of 254.59 miles per hour. Frank Bradley, your national winner, and I'm here to tell you the rains are starting to fall right now.
A 560 for Frank Bradley. That's an incredible run, considering all three passes were within 8/100ths of a second. A magnificent performance.
Well, I think if you ask any top fuel driver what the key to success is, he's going to tell you again and again, it's consistency. George Tolan, I know you regret not making the field here today in your top fuel dragster, but we certainly want to thank you for being on board and helping us describe the action.
Thanks a lot, Dan. I really enjoyed being up here.
And we'll be right back with more on the Superchargers and an interview with our winner, Frank Bradley. AHRA Top Fuel National winner, Frank Bradley.
Frank, you came into the race third fast qualifier. You've been really revved up today. It seems that it paid off, and it was a combination of the car and that adrenaline. Tell us about it.
Oh, yes. Car, driver, crew. The crew did excellent. I mean, you know, we're really happy. We're able to run the car a little bit harder. We've got Jolly Rancher sponsorship, and, you know, things really worked good this week, and I'm really happy.
What did you do to the engine just before this race?
The motor's been running real good all summer long. Last couple of years it has. I haven't been able to hook it up to the ground, smoking tires, that type of thing, but we've been working on the clutch, found something new, and I think it's going to work very well.
Well, congratulations to you and thanks.
Thank you.
Back to you in the tower, Jan.
Well, the day certainly belonged to Frank Bradley. He beat the legend, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, but you can bet that Garlitz will return to win again. I want to thank Linda Marshall for joining me. I'm Jan Gabriel, hoping that you'll join us again next time for more fast-paced motorsports action.